Good evening and welcome to Community Issues, a tapestry of concerns. You know me. My name is Alyce Smith-Cooper and I'm your host. And I have a fabulous guest for you this evening. Her name is Jan Phillips. And Jan is a friend of mine. We've been friends now for about 10 years? And Jan has the most incredible stories to tell because she is an artist of the truest ilk. She's an artist from the core of her being. And not only is she an artist, but she encourages other people to embrace their creativity in so many different ways. I'm going to let her tell you. But first of all, I have to have her to tell you the story of how she started out this mission, because it really is a ministry that you're involved in, right?
Yes, that's a good word for it, a ministry. I started out early on as an 18-year-old entering a convent, really, in order to be of use to people, to be somehow a vehicle for their personal transformation, since it was a nun who did that for me, who saw value in me when I couldn't see value in myself. And in her hands, I had the experience of shape-shifting from a caterpillar to the most beautiful butterfly. And I then made the mistaken conclusion that I needed to be a nun in order to do that. So that's the path I went on when I was 18. But after a couple of years, it was clear to them more than to me that I wasn't the kind of material they were hoping to get. So they called my mom and said, "You can come and get her now. We've had about enough of her." Turns out I was kind of like a union organizer in a Walmart. It was way too original thinking, a few years ahead of myself in the culture, and a lot of change and turbulence in the convent. So it was a good decision ultimately. Happy as I was.
So the bottom line is you went into the convent and started organizing the nuns.
I tried to, and it didn't work because of that vow of obedience.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's why I wanted you to tell the story, because that's my friend Jan. Jan has always been ahead of the curve. And in so being, you have this unique ability to bring other people along with you. And that's really what I want you to talk about this evening, because I say it all the time, but I think other people need to hear it from other people who have been much more prolific and productive. And here you have all of these books and audio cassettes and poems and all of these things that you have created over the past few years. How do you do it all? You're a photographer, you're a poet, you're a writer, you're a workshop leader. How do you do all that?
You know how they say bliss is our default mode? I think it's kind of in that category, that when you clear away the voices that say, "Who do you think you are? You can't pull that off. You're not creative enough or smart enough or thin enough or rich enough or lucky enough to be successful in the world doing what you want to do." If you don't have those voices running you, then you do this. All of us are capable of all of that. And the reason I know it is because after I was dismissed from the convent, I didn't have a plan B. I didn't know how to create a life. And so I had to stumble into it and figure and ask the questions, what's the closest thing to that? What should I do in order to be that force for good in the world? In order to be a means through which people can see their beauty and become the butterflies they're meant to be. And so the natural, organic progression for me was to choose social work. Mm-hmm. That's like a secular nun, right?
Okay.
So I choose social work. And then I am rescuing people one at a time, like Mother Teresa. Mm-hmm. And instead of pulling people out of the river one at a time, I want to go up and see who's throwing them in, right? So then I become a social activist. And I become like Gandhi then. That's the distinction between Mother Teresa, save them one at a time. Gandhi, dismantle the structures that cause injustice. So then when we make that, there's no job description for a social act. There's no career path or much money involved. So a lot more courage is called for. Being a social worker, you're an employee, you do what they say, you help people in what way you can. You're working in that milieu of being of service, but it's not, there's no risk attached to it. But when I shifted into social activism, a lot more risk attached to it, because now I have to figure out how to get money to pay my rent. And how do I be a force for good in the world? And the only medium that I had, well, I always loved to sing. So I could write songs in the service of peace. And at the time, for me, it was the late 60s, early 70s. So those issues that we were all confronting were the same. Every activist would be confronting the same issues. You know, so it would always be about, it would be Vietnam, it would be feminism, it would be gay and lesbian rights, it would be race issues, it would be apartheid globally. You know, it was like we're all looking at the same screen, people who are thinking about creating a world that works for everybody. So for me, everything I looked at, if it could be a tool to serve my agenda, I would improve myself at it. So photography, then, I got really good at, because I said, whoa, I can do slideshows of the peace movement, or slideshows of any issue. And eventually I become a videographer. And I get really good at it. And I teach myself all the protocols and everything I need to know. So now, because video is so much more powerful almost than a still photo, because you have music, the soundtrack, the narrative, the moving images, the still images, all in one vehicle. It's way more powerful than a PowerPoint, right? So that's kind of how it worked for me, that I get better at it.
So you took the gifts that you had and began to grow them.
Right.
And
to use them in the service of what I'm up to. Like all these cards, every one of these cards, sure, it's a beautiful photograph, but there's a very powerful quote. This one says, the more evolved you are, the more of the universe is in your view. Right? It causes you to think a little differently about things. So you attach beauty. The whole thing about using the arts to transform consciousness is the reason art works is because it brings us to our knees. Art works because it's not in our head, because it causes our hearts to open up. Like they were talking about Avatar, and we're talking, I mean, movies do that. If you're in an emotional snit, you take yourself to the movies and you get adjusted, because it takes you out of yourself and it opens your heart to the experience of the other. And every great spiritual master talks about open your heart to the experience of the other. That's what compassion is, having passion with the others. So there's the thing that separates me from any other Joe Blow trying to be a good force in the world is that I always bring art to the table. And it's my writing, it's poetry, it's my pictures, it's videos, it's everything.
It's your music?
It's my music. So that's, and I'm good at it because I do it all the time.
Exactly.
And I have figured out how to live with minimal requirements, so it doesn't cost me a lot to live, so that I can make a living as a creative person. But lucky me, I don't have children to support. I don't have grandchildren. I have nieces and nephews that I can lavish my attention on, but I haven't had the demands that most women have in their lives. So I know the privilege that I have and have experienced all my life, but I'm using my energy and my time for the common good.
That's a powerful statement. Powerful. And you depict it, you live it, you walk it, you teach it, and you write about it. This is the real woman creed. I believe that within me lies an extraordinary radiance, and I commit to letting my light loose in the world. I believe that the source of my power and wisdom is the center of my being, and I commit to acting from this place of strength. I believe that I possess an abundance of passion and creative potential, and I commit to the expression of these gifts. I believe that the time has come to let go of old notions and unhealthy attitudes, and I commit to re-examine what I have been told about beauty and dismiss what insults my soul. I believe that negative thoughts and words compromise my well-being, and I commit to thinking and speaking positively about myself and others. I believe that young women are in need of positive role models, and I commit to being an example of authenticity and self-love. I believe in the relationship between my well-being and the well-being of the planet, and I commit to a life of mindfulness that regards all living things as holy and worthy of my love. I believe it is my spiritual responsibility to care for my body with respect, kindness, and compassion. I commit to balancing my life in such a way that my physical being is fully expressed and nurtured. I believe that joy is an essential part of wellness, and I commit to removing obstacles to joy and creating a life that is full of exuberance. And finally, I believe that a woman who loves herself is a powerful, passionate, attractive force, and I commit from this day forward to loving myself deeply and extravagantly.
Yay! I do too. And I love you deeply and extravagantly.
This is marvelous. I know you wrote this in 2007. I think were we still working together at that point?
Oh, who knows? Time flies.
It truly does. But I know that I love this, and there's so much in it that one could model themselves after. But the part that stands out for me most at the moment is I commit myself to a life of mindfulness that regards all living things as holy and worthy of my love. Mindfulness. I hear a lot spoken of mindfulness. What does that mean, in your opinion?
I think mindfulness is the commitment to so be aware of what the process of how we create reality, that we know first it enters into us like an image in our minds, that there's something from the outside, from divine mind, if you will, that we have an image that wants to work its way through us to become something real in the visible world. And how we work with that is that we begin to speak of it. And our speaking, I think with the words that I say on Tuesday become the life that I live on Thursday. Right? So at the end of the day, anytime I go to bed at night, and I don't have to evaluate, did I say any words I didn't mean? Because I live with a kind of mindfulness that every word that comes out of my mouth, were it to come true, I would affirm it and want it.
Wow.
So I do not say negative things about myself or other people. I do not say bad things about my thighs or bad things about anybody else's opinions. Mindfulness is a big job.
It is.
It's a full-time job. But I am so aware that, I always used to say when we were working on the Real Women Project, it's not about what we put in our mouth that's the problem. It's about what comes out of our mouth that's the problem. So for us always to be as aware as we can be, to know that these words that I speak are the life that I enter into. And the German mystic Meister Eckhart said it so poignantly. He says when the soul wants to have an experience of something, she throws an image of that experience ahead of her and then enters into the image. And that's exactly what we're talking about. When I talk about creating every day, it's the same as a creative process. If I'm going to go make a song or go make a photograph or something, I'm looking for what's the metaphor for my interior world. I'm looking for what represents joy in my life. When I photographed you, videotaped you at your birthday giveaway, I wanted to be there because that was so close to my own personal joy that it was like a metaphor for me of the greatest thing a person could do on their birthday is to give, particularly to the homeless community in San Diego, just to have tables and tables of things that they could come and have. That's like a celebration of our oneness, and all things that we create, and all things that I create are a celebration of my oneness with the other, because our culture at large is vacuous in that regard. The culture at large focuses on what's our differences, right? And so for me, I want to be an artist of consequence who says, oh, but this is true. Whatever you say, you can have your say. But I'm saying it's true that you and I are as close as two human beings could ever be, because we see each other. We recognize each other. And that's true if I'm sitting next to the guy on the bus or the person on the street. It's like I scare myself sometime in an airplane because I'm squished together with these people, and I look at them and I just want to go, I love you so much. I just want to touch them and say, I love you so much. I believe in you. And where does that come from? It's not because I'm wacko.
It's not because you're wacko. You're right. It's, excuse me, it gives me so much joy. It's choking me up. It comes from a great place of compassion and a great place of the welling up of love. And I believe that the greatest teachers that we have ever known, those that we follow after and quote, that was what they were trying to teach us to be.
I think
one
so,
with
totally.
another.
I did a workshop up in Seattle last weekend, and the church, it was 100 women on a weekend retreat from the United Church of Christ, and they took like 2.5 hours for what they called their worship service, and I participated in it because I wanted to experience it. And a big chunk of that time was when they all would say what their prayers were for the community, and they named names, and they stood up and they said, let's pray for this person and let's pray for that person. And they said, and I'm praying for you, Ruth, because you're the first person who welcomed me when I walked through the door. And I'm praying for you, Betty Ann, because you're the first person that held my child after she was born. I mean, very, very personal. And all while I'm sitting there watching that, I'm thinking, if Jesus Christ ever came back here, he would say to the women in the room, this is what I was talking about. This is what I was trying to say at that Last Supper and all those suppers that we had. This is the kind of love I want to see. You're doing it right. That's how I felt about it. And I'm sure there's some churches that are doing it right. And some ain't. But that's not our business.
No, it isn't. And there are some places where it's being done right that aren't even called churches.
Thank you. Yes.
I see it on the streets. I work with the homeless. And I commend them every time I get the opportunity. That was why the Golden Brown Fairy Godmother, that was the way I went to give my birthday party. That was why I went. Because I wanted to tell them, I acknowledge your sense of community and the love that you share one with another. Doesn't matter whether you have a home. If you want a home, call 211, somebody will help you. But if this is what you choose, honor who you are,
Yeah.
where you are.
Yeah.
And that was why I wanted to go. And I thank you so much for coming and doing that.
Oh, I had a ball.
Videotaping. That was great. This is the cold season, folks. You have to excuse me for coughing. But tell us about the things that you have created here, the books and the audio tapes and the videotapes, and tell us about it.
I think this creating every day here, it's kind of a little double entendre, a little play on words. because it doesn't mean creating a painting every day. It means creating every day. And that's the biggest thing. Whenever I'm working with a group of people, that I say to them, even though it looks like I think it's all about products, because I'm like the product queen, I totally revere that whether there's a product or not is a moot point, because the creativity that I'm talking about is that creativity as a spiritual force, as a awakening of consciousness that has you living a life so intentionally that when you finally climb into bed at the end of the day, you say, well, that was another perfect day. I did it perfect. And that when you get up in the morning, you wake up and you go, yay, 24 hours to do something with. An empty canvas. Now, I'm personally paralyzed if someone gives me a paintbrush and an empty canvas. So I can't, I'm not so good at the painting thing. I have other art media that I work with. But about the day that I'm creating, I think of it as a masterpiece. And I approach it with that kind. I'm listening for the muse. I'm tuned into spirit. I mean, when I talk about the muse here, I'm not talking about some little white, thin blonde behind my shoulder like the Renaissance artist painted her. I'm talking about a huge, powerful, invisible force that causes spirit to become material in our hands, that we are co-creating this planet. San Diego looks like it looks because you're in it and I'm in it, right? And you have been a force in this community and you know it. But what I'm aiming for is for everybody who encounters me to leave that encounter feeling empowered to really create a beautiful life for themselves. Because the ultimate job, it's like Rumi says, the eyes are here for seeing, but the soul is here for its own joy. And our job is to be joyful. Because when we're happy, radiance, divine comes through, people experience the gift of our being. That's what we need to be, joyful.
I am so with you on that. Absolutely. My favorite greeting at this point is with an eye towards joy. I mean, that's exactly what I say to people. And my purpose for being here and for having you to be here is to share that very same idea with whoever is watching. And don't touch the dial, because you really need to hear this. What you're saying is that each one of us is an artist, and we can each create a day that is a masterpiece. Because we all get the same 24 hours.
We all get the same 24 hours.
And we have a choice as to how we use it. And it comes from the spirit that guides us, that gives us the ideas, the pictures in our heads, or the words in our mouths. And as we bring them forward intentionally, minus the negativity, we can create a different atmosphere, a different world, day by day by day.
Amen.
And we each have the responsibility to do this. You can do it. Whether you are a millionaire in a penthouse or whether you are huddled under a tent on the street, everyone has this capability, this ability, actually this responsibility. But I don't want to lay a guilt trip on you. That's not why I'm here. The idea is to empower you. This is good stuff.
I think so.
This is wonderful stuff.
Your assignment is joy. I mean, that's lightening up the load.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Because the load does get heavy. And no one is minimizing that. No one is minimizing the difficulties of life or the pathos that we experience. You don't want to hear my testimony, okay? But through it all, there is joy, because the joy of the Creator is our strength. And that's what keeps us able to move forward with the intention of a positive outcome. I think that's what faith is all about.
I think so.
Yeah. I'm so glad you came to visit us.
I am too. Thanks for having me
It's taken us a long time to get you here, but it's because you're a busy woman and you are creating that a stream for yourself and moving forward in it. And I'm so happy that you do that. And I'm looking forward to doing a workshop with you soon. I think that would be. I think I'm ready for that now.
Okay, anytime. Good, thanks, Alyce.
But and if you're interested in knowing more about the things that Jan Phillips does, call the number on the screen, and we will make sure that you get the information that you need.
So easy. Everything's Googleable.
Googleable.
These days.
Google eyes. Googleable. I like that. You're a nonprofit, right?
Starting one after Africa, yes.
Okay. That's right. You're on your way to Africa to see what you can do there. That's an intentional move.
Yes, it is.
Without a
It's
doubt.
a big intentional move.
Without a doubt. I am so proud of you. I can't wait to hear and have you come back to
good.
tell us
Okay.
what you came up with
right.
when you come back from Africa. So
Good.
thank you very much for being with us this evening. It's been a real joy. Thank you for putting up with us. It's the cold season, it's the flu season, and we're coughing and carrying on, but we're still here. We're here because we want to be. And we're here because we want to share with you the things that we know are true. And if it's the truth for one, it's the truth for all.
Amen.
So, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And don't forget to love one another with an eye towards joy.